right, thanks everybody for coming. Tonight we are having the Dutch closure meetup number 146, if memory serves. That means 146 consecutive months of closure meetups in the Netherlands, and since actually the corona pandemic, also online. Tonight we do have a speaker on our agenda, and the talk will be about Clerk. I'm not gonna spend too many words on both the project and the speaker because I am very sure Martin is much more capable than me at introducing himself and the projects. I'm just gonna leave the stage to Martin, and please can you introduce yourself and Clerk?
All right, yeah, thanks, Carlo. So, trying to share my screen here as well. And yeah, so you see the screen, right? Obligatory question. All right. Yeah, so Clerk, or first myself, I'm Martin, go by these handles on Twitter and GitHub. And yeah, been working on this product called Next Journal for a while, which is a computational notebook platform. And we're interested in kind of making it easier for data scientists to perform and share analysis in a reproducible way so they can build on top of each other's work. And yeah, there we've kind of encountered, yeah, a lot of so we've been in this space of computational notebooks for a while, and I'd say this is a fairly young field. The Jupyter notebook has been become pretty popular over the last decade, but it's like, while being immensely popular, it's definitely not without flaws. And what folks typically kind of criticize about Jupyter is like, this is kind of this notebook where you're editing code in your browser. So folks are saying it's less helpful than the default editors. And like, these notebooks typically have kind of a JSON format where they embed code together with blobs of results. And this makes it not especially easy to reuse or put into version control. And then in these notebooks, like, you get kind of explicit control like you do when running code at the REPL of when to execute a given cell. And this often leads to problems when others try to reproduce it. Like, yeah, these notebooks also contain inline results, as I said, and then, yeah, putting them into this makes it difficult to put them into version control, and not always easy for others to reproduce their stuff. And so Clerk is kind of, yeah, after some years of trying various different things, is kind of our current attempt to try to address these problems. Where Next Journal is a polyglot platform, we're trying to focus just on closure at this time. And yeah, so we're trying to solve this by, how are we trying to solve this? Clerk is just using kind of normal closure namespaces interspersed with markdown comments. And let's see what this looks like. So this is actually on the left, the source file for my notebook. And you can see kind of as I'm, or it's actually, one sec. So I can make a change here. And this is kind of changing the visibility here of this form. And then my namespace declaration is being shown again. And yeah, you can, Clerk works like, you can control it by either a command in the REPL. So I can run this update the notebook here. Whereas I actually have this bound to a hotkey, so I can press Option Enter, and this will update. And this is actually what I recommend most. And you can also set up a file watcher that Clerk would kind of show things whenever you change a file. But yeah, that's one of the first things I definitely want to get across, that the hotkey is kind of what we recommend most. And yeah, one thing, by the way, in terms of this, because we're a small group here, like please feel free to interrupt and ask questions at any time. And yeah, we have some things here that we can potentially go over, but yeah, this is not meant as kind of a set agenda, but we can kind of dive deeper into different things you find interesting. And yeah, so please give me feedback, kind of what you'd like to learn more about. And yeah, so how does Clerk work, or yeah, what's in the box? So like we said, we're using just normal closure namespaces. Yeah, this is a namespace that I can just evaluate in Emacs here, and this kind of solves a lot of these problems. It's obviously not less helpful than my editor anymore, but because I can keep using my editor. It's also not hard to reuse because these are just regular closure namespaces. They can be on the class path, don't have to be. But yeah, if they're on the class path, I can require them. I can have library code in them. The reuse problem is basically solved. Yeah, they're well suited to be put into version control. Yeah, as these contain only the results, right? The source document and sorry, only the source code. The result is stored elsewhere. And yeah, let's look at some small examples next. If you want, we can also. So currently, you see, we just see the results here, right? But if we change this, remove this hide here, we see the code cells. So this is stuff you can control, kind of. All right, let's try this once more. So yeah, I can control visibility here. And so now this should actually, I'm not muted anymore, right? Yeah. Bring it back, but I can also and this is kind of a first. So what's happening here in the cell? This is a slurping this dict words file on my Mac OS machine that contains a bunch of all the words in my dictionary basically, and I'm grouping them by the first word, and you can see kind of this would return a pretty large number of words grouped by starting character. You can see if I printed this insider, this would typically be a problem because yeah, I would print megabytes of data and this would kind of overflow my REPL. But what Clerk does here, it's just giving me a view into a subset of this data, and we can kind of request more as we go, and we can do this on different levels. So kind of both on the root level as kind of drill down further. And yeah, so we kind of also, we enforce also a global budget per result and our goal is definitely that we can handle kind of, we're trying to be good about handling whatever data you throw at it. And yeah, if you still run into cases where this isn't working well, where this leads to the browser being receiving too much data, then please do file a bug, as that's definitely something we'd like to know about. And so that's kind of the default viewer using, that works well for visualizing closure data, but we can also, for example, with this metadata annotation, show this as a table. And yeah, now we have a table here. Again, can also lazy load more rows, or doesn't seem to like me today. Well, this should work normally. And yeah, below you see a small plotly plot. Yeah, kind of our distribution, of words per starting character. So you can see that, yeah, kind of S and P are the most common words. Yeah, or the letters with the most words. And
Martin, I have a quick question. Is it possible to configure the amount at which it will lazy load? So like if you wanted, for, I don't know, the first 500 to always show up, is there a way to configure that?
Yeah, there is. That's something that's currently not like, or let's see. So you, when we look into the viewer API a bit, let's see. What's an example here? So, I mean, we can configure the viewers to kind of load all data. Let me see. Or now I'm wondering myself. So in general, we can look, or let's maybe look at this. I think this has a good explanation also, kind of how the viewers work in general, and then we can see if this is possible. If it's not possible, that's definitely something we want to make possible. One sec. So this is a new thing that's about to be, like, this isn't on Maven yet, but kind of, yeah, if you use the Git also of the Clerk Demo repo, this is now possible. What we're doing here is kind of define a custom viewer that's a slider, and we can kind of go over the pieces that make up a viewer one by one. So a viewer is basically, a Clerk viewer is just a map that contains a predicate function, can optionally contain a fetch function, as well as a transform function and a render function. And so what Clerk does when it sees a result, it, like, Clerk comes with a number of built-in viewers, and we can look at the definition. So these are, let's see, it's probably a bit. So these are kind of Clerk's defaults. We have a viewer for char and string, number, and so on. Here's an image viewer being defined, and yeah, for all kinds of things, do we have defaults, and Clerk kind of would look at the result and then go through all these predicate functions in order until it finds one that matches. And back to my controls notebook. And yeah, and then in this case, kind of what we like here we have a def once for which we select this viewer. So in this case, the predicate won't really be needed. Would be the same if we omitted it. Just a try. Yeah, so this still works. And yeah, you can see kind of as I drag the slider, you can see the value down here being updated. And so yeah, kind of looking, or how can we see what's so kind of this fetch function typically control. Let's see if we notebooks. So if we have a like range 150 here, yeah, you typically see these. Yeah, you just get the first 20 elements, right? And with the ability to load more. And so I'm wondering. So we could give this, like, a fetch function is something that takes kind of an options map and the value. And if we, nope. Then let's see our list. Second. Or yeah, no, this is probably, yeah, I think this is gonna turn into a fever coding session. Let's actually go back, I think, to the, yeah, what I have here. So yeah, to your question, I'll need to look into if this is like how easy this currently is. Yeah, we definitely want to make it easier still.
Okay, so
this is definitely something we want to enable.
So the fetch function is responsible for returning the actual value that eventually gets rendered, and so you could mess with that. I could play with it. Okay.
So what the fetch function also allows you to do, kind of, if you look at kind of our image example, for example, so this is also built on. This is using the. Let's look at how the image viewer is. Buffer. So here the image viewer actually comes with a fetch function that takes this image, and then it kind of gets its dimensions. Here the width and the height and the aspect ratio, and converts this to a PNG. And yeah, the image view matches on anything that's a buffered image in Java. And then it actually returns this map where as the value it has embedded this byte array. And then you set this content type to image PNG, and then Clerk's web server will kind of serve that as a separate, kind of out of band, just a byte array, like also setting this content type. So this allows you to kind of, via this fetch function, you can customize Clerk's fetching to, return kind of opaque types. Yeah, or any binary things, and you can set the content type and kind of additional attributes.
Got it.
That
Thank
makes
you.
sense.
Yeah.
And let's look at where we actually do the pagination. So we can kind of, for collections, we like if something is seekable, we kind of try to sort this collection, and then kind of given from the fetch options, we try to take the first 20 elements, but I think we should be able to fetch opt. Yeah, okay, so I think we can actually, we should be able, yeah, now I remember. So in general, the collection viewers, like this, where's our, the sequential collection viewer has on the viewer these fetch options. That's N20, and this allows you to control the batch size. So let's actually try this. Okay. Oops. Yes. So yeah, it does work. So we can currently, by passing this fetch option, we can kind of override the batching size here. But what isn't super trivial yet, in this case, I kind of copied the viewer out, right, and kind of overrode the whole thing. And yeah, we want to make it easier that you can kind of also, like, it's currently a bit hard to customize these viewers, right, that are just in this, in this long sequence, right, and we want to make that easier, that they're actually like, that you have them available, either like can easily access them either using this predicate or a name, so that it's easy to like give me the default viewer for sequences in Clerk, but just change the fetch options to be N50 instead of 20. But yeah. Is this making sense or understandable?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Good. And yeah, these viewers, they're like, we're trying to make them as open as possible, that you can basically make them do anything you want. And this is, a few of you might have seen this example already. This is kind of Rule 30, a cellular automaton in Clerk. And here we kind of setting custom viewers. So a number gets drawn as this white square when it's 0 and a black square otherwise. And then we override kind of the list and vector viewers, so that one becomes kind of a row and the other one becomes a column. And then we can pretty easily do visualizations like this, and kind of compare how this looks like in the REPL, right, versus here this is kind of the default map viewer, right, where we just using the viewers. Just the inner viewers here are custom viewers. And yeah, I think this really helps us kind of, yeah, the thing on the right really is a lot easier to see, yeah, than if we're using such an encoding here on the left, right? And again, so we could be setting fetch opts here, like, yeah, now this is being limited here, right? And I can load more. Or here as well, right? And then, yeah. And yeah. Take this out again, and yeah, we see the whole thing. All right. So yeah, any questions?
I have a question. So the render FN, why does it have to be quoted?
Yeah. So the render FN is quoted because that's the one function of this API that doesn't run on the JVM side, but that actually runs in the browser. And we're using Mikhail's Sci library for this. So yeah, that we, like, instead of running kind of a classic ClojureScript compiler here in the browser, which, yeah, would be pretty heavy, yeah, we're just running Sci over there, and this interprets the viewer code.
Okay, clear.
And yeah, so kind of how does this, back to the interactive examples, yeah, we can look a bit kind of at how this slider works. So again, yeah, as I drag this, the value gets updated here, right? And yeah, so this is a viewer where the fetch function is just kind of the fetch all function. And kind of by default, Clerk has a viewer, like Clerk for a var just shows you the values of the var, right? Where in Clojure, I don't know if you can see this, I would see the foo var here, right? In Clerk, I just see the value of it. And we think this is often what you want, kind of to see the data behind the var. But in the case of the slider here, it's not, right? Because I want to actually kind of grab the bar and change it as a result of dragging it. And so we kind of override Clerk's default view for vars here, and use a transform function where we get this value, kind of what the bar from def is. Kind of, we can also look at the default viewer. So let's grab that and compare. So this is Clerk's default viewer for var. The predicate var from def is basically, yeah, it's basically, it's, yeah, conceptually, or it's pretty similar to just this keyword here. And the transform function normally is just, yeah, get this key and then you have the var, right? And then deref it to get the value. And what we're doing here instead is we're transforming this into a map where we have the var name as a symbol, and we get the value of the var. That's the first deref, and then deref again to get the value of this atom. And then our render function kind of takes the var name and the value, and it renders an input element. And in its onChange function, it calls this Clerk eval function. That's part of the viewer API. And this will call back into the JVM and execute this quoted form there. And kind of that's how we get this interactivity. And yeah, that's one example. Another one would be, this is also, yeah, you can see this on the Clerk Demo repo. What we talked about is documented there a bit. This is also definitely one of the, we feel the viewer API, it's starting to settle down a bit, but yeah, it's definitely, there might still be things that we still need to change around it. Yeah, so no guarantees of this being stable yet. And yeah, this is another viewer where you can kind of type.
Can I ask a question about the previous one?
Yeah.
So so the onChange function sends back a form to the JVM, and the JVM evaluates this.
Yeah.
And then, so is there like a two-way WebSocket or something that's?
Yeah. There's a WebSocket that's running. We can also look at this. So yeah, this is using HTTP-Kit as a web server, and yeah, this is kind of our onReceive function.
Right.
Okay.
So after it evaluates, it recomputes the notebook, and is that happening using incremental results, or how does that work?
Yeah, so recompute doesn't recompute assumes that like the document didn't change, right? So it doesn't reanalyze the notebook, but kind of runs reruns just the computation, and there's a Clerk kind of caches things that don't change, and like currently there's also kind of some, let's see, there's some limitations that we're still working on addressing. So here, if you do bar, this will update, right? But so currently, if you do this, then you see just this doesn't change, and I actually need to kind of tag this with no cache to say I want this to evaluate every time. But yeah, I'm currently working on kind of adding value semantics for atoms. So kind of when you deref an atom, that this becomes its own thing kind of in the Clerk dependency graph. Like the derefed atom, as opposed to being a reference to the atom and the deref form enclosure, as it currently is. Yeah, so to teach Clerk about value semantics to not need to kind of taint this with no cache anymore.
And related question, if you make this into a static standalone notebook without a server, how does then the slider doesn't work anymore, right? Or
no.
Okay.
So that's another opportunity for future work.
Okay. But still,
But there's Jack made a pretty nice example of kind of what this can be used for. The dictionary. What's going on? Not working so well today. The demo gods aren't being so kind. Let's try turning it off and on again. Okay, not running yet. All right, so this is a dictionary, and I can, like, this is using kind of a data set locally from kind of WorkNet, and yeah, it's using this, yeah, again, kind of a custom viewer and this text input where I can input words, right? And once I have just a single word, I'm seeing this result. And so, yeah, this is, what is it? I think like 60 lines of, what is it? Why is it not showing my line numbers? Yeah, 46 lines of code, yeah, to make such a small interactive app. Yeah, which I think is pretty nice. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so one thing we should probably dive in a bit more is kind of, yeah, how the caching works in Clerk, yeah, how Clerk works under the hood in general. So kind of it starts that we kind of, yeah, parse a given closure file, right? And we, like, this is Clerk being run on this document itself that we're seeing here. So kind of the result of the parse is a sequence of blocks, and we get back blocks of type markdown and blocks of type code. And then we start an analysis pass where Clerk builds a dependency graph out of these vars. So there's kind of it starts. Let's see, where do we? So kind of each code cell is being augmented with more information. Kind of, is this a namespace effect? Like, do we need to evaluate this kind of as we drive analysis? And yeah, do we read kind of the global, like, yeah, is this a thing where this will affect the whole document because it's the namespace? And then, yeah, we also build up this dependency graph kind of all vars, kind of how they relate to each other, and kind of do this recursively until we've, so kind of an analysis of this document will kind of descend and also analyze all transitive dependencies. And it does this by kind of, yeah, looking at the symbols and kind of finding the location, trying to find a location for each symbol. So we can see that kind of hashing analyze file is coming from a gitlib here, or this dependency depend is coming from this jar. or this Java symbol here is also coming from a jar, whereas Java util UUID we don't find a location for because this is a JDK built in. And yeah, then we can kind of ask it kind of what are the transitive dependencies of a given var. And yeah, we can use this dependency graph to kind of sort all our symbols in order of this graph, and kind of use that starting at the top to hash each expression, so that whenever something changes that something else depends on, we correctly invalidate this. And you can kind of see this in action here. Or first of all, kind of why do we need to do this? Yeah, so in general the experience would be pretty lame in Clerk if we evaluated each notebook always from top to bottom. Because yeah, I have a thread sleep in here. This could also be like a bit longer, right? If I sleep for 2 seconds here, and I run this in Emacs. Oops. Huh. Why am I seeing this error now? Oh, I guess I would need to check if this. Okay, no, it needs to run first in Clerk, I think. Yeah, and then. So every time I run this in Emacs, right, this takes no more than 2 seconds, right? And this would be like, if I was typing here and wanted to see a change, right? If I had to wait 2 seconds every time, this would be pretty shitty experience. And yeah, so in general, that's why Clerk needs to do caching. And yeah, we have some plans to kind of also use that for more things, yeah, than just kind of this use case, that you can actually use it to save and revive kind of longer running computations. And this cache will also, this is persisted to the file system and will also be reused kind of if my JVM exits and I'm starting tomorrow fresh again. Yeah, this is still being picked up. And yeah, we can see this kind of here as I rerun this, even though this is a kind of a random expression, right? This doesn't change here because yeah, Clerk caches it. But if I tag this with no cache, you can see kind of every time I evaluate, this changes. 1 second, yeah, need a very short break. Be right back. Oh, how long was I muted for? Just now, or?
Just now.
Oh, I was afraid I was talking already the last 20 minutes without hearing anything, without you hearing anything. All right. Yeah. Any questions here on this caching stuff, or things I should go into further?
Again, where are the cache files stored?
Yeah, so we store them kind of, yeah, just this is the Clerk demo kind of here in .clerk cache, and you can see there's kind of two. So there's kind of these files with @ these are this is a SHA-1 of a form, and if we look into this, this points into such a longer hash, and you can see this kind of here, like this is the oops. So this is a hash of a form, right? This rand 15 and like 2 cache file of this form hash. Oops, of course. Gives me no. Okay, so if I if I slurp this, this is kind of the and if I call thaw from cas on this, this is actually what you see. This is a kind of, and this basically just, this is using NIPI, which is kind of the fastest closure serialization library out there by a pretty long shot. And this is just freezing and thawing, kind of, serializing and deserializing this file to disk.
All right, thanks.
So should we, any more questions on the caching stuff? Can maybe also, like, I'm like, this is currently, this is definitely subject to change as well, as are most things in the library still, but this even more so than other stuff. This kind of def cached macro gives you kind of Clerk's view of a var if you want to kind of use this in your editor again. Let's see. So so this rand 15, right? So if I run this here, right, this again takes the 2 seconds, right? But if I change this to Clerk def cached, like subsequent executions of this are actually fast, because then I'm using Clerk's notion of a var here, and this is now using Clerk's caching mechanism. And we see this potentially being useful for kind of memoizing computations of long running kind of data science tasks. Say you do machine learning or have some training that takes a while, or the fetching of a data set. And because this is kind of content addressed, and so this can be stored to a kind of append only immutable store. So you could also imagine this being shared across like CI or across a team. So only one person has to, or this expensive computation would only have to run once. And this is stuff that we're currently experimenting with.
Would it be possible to maybe use annotations instead of different def implementation to fiddle with how Clerk does that?
So we're also using the kind of with, like, another approach that we're trying is this with cache macro. So then you could use it kind of instead of this, right? You would leave this as a normal def, and could also be a def once or whatever, right? And then you would do this here. Yeah, we're not sure kind of which one of those is going to be, or if we want to keep both or something different altogether. Yeah. Or what would you have in mind in terms of annotation, kind of metadata or something?
Something like metadata to make the code not about Clerk. So something you might be able to reuse outside of the scope of Clerk without having to have Clerk in your face, so to say, or in your code.
Yeah, but then I think it would become difficult, right? I mean, then you would have to change closures eval to make this work, right? Which would be, I guess, even more invasive, right?
Yeah, probably so.
And yeah, so but yeah, definitely also this could be maybe a small library that just brings you like Clerk's, yeah, caching could potentially be another separate library of just one namespace. Yeah, that just gives you that. And definitely kind of one of the things we're also planning is to like make Clerk's caching open. Like, yeah, NIPI works for a lot of stuff and it's pretty good for closure data, but yeah, there might be cases when you want to reach for Apache Arrow or also like keep Clerk's toolbox open there in the caching that you can plug in your own caching mechanisms again by using some metadata annotation, like cache fn or something, and yeah, allowing you to customize how something gets written and read from disk. All right. Yeah, there's like definitely the Clerk Demo repo. I encourage folks to check that out. Like at the next journal, Clerk Demo. Yeah, it has all the interactivity stuff and kind of the data science example is pretty cool. For example, yeah, this is probably a bit boring for me to go over this, but yeah, encourage folks to check it out on their own, as well as the double pendulum SICM utils example. That's using this port of structure and interpretation for classical mechanics to closure. And yeah, where we can use closure to perform symbolic math. And yeah, here it's being like, you can see kind of we can take these equations as expressions and render them out to different forms, like to LaTeX, and then yeah, also do these visualizations at the very bottom here. Kind of this is a double pendulum, and see how this evolves over time. Yeah. So what else do we? Yeah, kind of what's next from our side? Kind of want to release the interactivity like this dictionary, and definitely make it easier to customize Clerk's viewers. Yeah, we have some ideas around that. Yeah, like allow you to get Clerk's cached view of a var in your REPL again. And yeah, kind of this opening up caching, I think we talked about as well. So yeah, let me know if you have more questions or.
When it comes to viewers, so you do have some sort of a library for creating your custom viewers, or?
Yeah, so it's a library. I mean, this is part of Clerk, and you can kind of I mean, let's look at this again. So kind of there's so I can, in terms of API, so generally Clerk always comes with the default viewers. So let's see. So is it? Is it not? What's it called? Okay, so these are default viewers, and where's the state stored? No, it's bang viewers. Oh, this doesn't render very nicely. I'm not sure what's going on there. This is kind of the meta circular problem, I guess. Or let's see, maybe this is also because we should be looking at this in another notebook. Let's see. Okay, looks a bit better. So yeah, these are kind of yeah, the default Clerk viewers we looked at before, right? And we have them in an atom to allow you to change them, right? So you could go in there and kind of yeah, change any one of them, or remove some and add more, or change the order, or so there's kind of several ways to override stuff, right? So you can do Clerk set viewers, right? And this applies them to a namespace. Set viewers is a function that will apply kind of to this, or we can also look at this. So this kind of figures out what's the namespace, right? And then it sets these viewers kind of on, like Clerk keeps a, like if I set these thread number transform fn inc, for example, would be as oops, I guess that didn't quite yeah, no, that's not good, because need a render function actually to, otherwise this will be recursively applied. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's see. I guess I need to no cache this. Oh, and Okay, so now I have my namespace here, right? And it has this one viewer on it. And the way Clerk kind of applies the viewers, at first, the namespace viewer take precedence, and then later it would fall back to kind of the root viewers, the defaults that Clerk brings. And, or I can kind of just use, for example, the metadata annotation. Could also, let's see in general what this. So if I use this, oops. Okay, so of course a number can't have metadata. So yeah, you can see that I have my viewer now applied that will just render a number, right? But a transform function that increments it. And, or if we change this, this is a bug. This is a, yeah, caching the hardest part as always. Let's turn caching off for this whole namespace for the moment. And okay, yeah, so now I guess we don't correctly invalidate, yeah, when just the viewers changed. So yeah, we can set kind of viewers on the form. An alternative way to do the same thing would also be to set the viewer, which doesn't need a predicate then, but just the singular viewer, right? Which just takes a single map. Or do set viewers to let this apply to the whole namespace, or kind of, yeah, change this root atom to kind of change the default viewers that Clerk has. These are kind of the levels at which I can override viewers. So, yeah, perform multiple. This is perform single viewer per NS, and this is, if I change this, this is global, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So there are these tools to help you during development, like Portal and Rebel and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Have you also considered that Clerk can be used in that way, just during development to render some data?
Yeah, definitely. This is certainly like, yeah, something we have in mind. Like you can, there's this, the tab example, for example, I guess, or I guess I need to quickly copy. It doesn't have my REPL. So yeah, so here if I tap stuff, right, and this shows up here, like I think, yeah, eventually we want to make something like this kind of more built in, right? That, yeah, you don't necessarily want to like display a certain notebook, but just, yeah, have a way to enable a tab handler in Clerk, right? and then you can just send things there. Again, possibly control kind of how this pops up, or if you get kind of a small panel, or it takes over your whole screen, and being able to easily send things to Clerk, just this way. And I think this is similar, like, or Portal definitely also has a tab handler, right? And as does Rebel, I think. This came out of Rebel, right? I think. Closure tab coincided with Rebel, right? So definitely using that as an interface, and I guess another thing we've also I've been thinking about is kind of like using kind of Clerk's like the limit of the printing that Clerk does, and being able to use that again in Emacs. Might also be something worth trying, because sometimes I have these big things that now print fine in Clerk, right? But you have to be careful to not run them in Emacs. Might be nice to have a small middleware that does this. Kind of applies the same limits to when you print things there. But this definitely, I think I still want to wait a bit on this until like the Clerk stuff becomes stable before. It's nice being able to still investigate a problem on the one side. With something that works on the other side, right? And not both things breaking at the same time because they're the same thing. Yeah. All right. Well, I think more questions.
Could I ask? I guess first, that is so enlightening. Thank you so much. This live session is teaching so much and really amazing. I wanted to ask about user experience, about the usual way or some usual ways of using the editor, where people, I guess, are used to evaluating code in the editor, and sometimes evaluating one form and sometimes evaluating the whole namespace. And then there is something new that is added, which is this hotkey that shows something in Clerk and actually also evaluates. And then is it confusing to users? And also, is it changing your experience in how you choose to evaluate things and when? Right, it's really introducing a new way of doing things, which is so brave.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's pretty natural to, like, I mean, to me, kind of I think the file system watcher works pretty well when it's really just one notebook that you're working on, which is also meant to be viewed kind of, which you're intentionally writing to see it in Clerk, right? But sometimes when you work on a project like where you have lots of library code as well, and just a subset of those things are notebooks, then I think the file watcher can often be annoying. Like, if let's see some namespace, for example, this web server, right? This wasn't, where am I running here? I don't. Which REPL is this sending stuff to? The wrong one, or it doesn't. Okay, let's see. Well, I guess, or you'll have to imagine it. Imagine seeing this this thing in Clerk, right? that doesn't have any visualizations, and so this is not very interesting to look at in Clerk. And yeah, I think in that case, kind of the hotkey is really nice because it allows you to very intentionally evaluate things when you want to, and I think it comes pretty natural. Like you're used to having different bindings, right, for evaluating at point or the whole top level form or whatever you want to do. So yeah, I think having a thing that you use similar to evaluate the whole buffer, yeah, to show the thing in Clerk. No, I think it's quite natural. And what I hear from my colleagues that tried it, they also, like, once they tried the hotkey approach, they don't want to go back to the live reload. So yeah, I encourage people to give that a try, definitely. And yeah, I don't think it's confusing, really. Yeah.
That is wonderful.
All right. Numbers still around. Yeah. Questions.
This actually a hot reload thing. It's configured at your Emacs level, I assume, right? Somewhere.
Yeah. So so we have this in the kind of editor integration. Yeah. So in Emacs, I'm using kind of this thing that on some hotkey, I call Clerk show. And yeah, we have instructions for IntelliJ and NeoWim as well. Yeah, if folks want other stuff that's missing here, let us know. We can make it happen, I think.
Cool.
And yeah, alternative would be to kind of to call Clerk with and kind of passing it watch paths. Let's see, for example, notebooks, and now if I make a change here, or I guess I need to reload once because I restarted it. Yeah, and then just if I save the file, the changes get picked up. Yeah, which is even less of an integration needed, but yeah, I find the kind of more intentional thing better, especially like when I'm working on projects that have other code that's not meant to be viewed through Clerk. So I guess like we definitely like kind of this approach that we showed, right, where you can get access to the bars. You could also imagine kind of writing custom viewers that take a namespace, right, and then use it to render documentation out of it, right? Because you have the bars, they have the doc strings as metadata on them, and yeah, this is also something I've been wanting to explore. So yeah, that could make the fix a bit of the, or could also make kind of regular namespaces could be a good view for those.
I know it's not really strictly about Clerk, but indeed we maybe even before we started the recording, we mentioned NoteSpace as a different tool in the same space. Sorry for the wording. What would be a comparison in scope? Are the scope of NoteSpace and Clerk exactly overlapping, or is there a different intention on what the NoteSpace tool should be?
Daniel can probably best answer that, right?
Yeah, thank you. Then I'll comment briefly. So, NodeSpace tried different ways, different experiences of expressing this need to evaluate and show. And I think a few of the things we tried on different versions of NodeSpace were actually confusing to users or not complete enough. So it was a sequence of experiments that we learned from about the desired experience. And it was also a tool for writing notebooks in the community for a while. And then I think at the moment, what it is trying to do is to try to maintain as much as possible of the usual experience by just listening to NREPL evaluations. So in this sense, it is different at the moment, even though in the past it was more similar to this hotkey approach. And I think another aspect in NodeSpace is this question of how to experience the viewer, the kind of thing, and how it could be viewed. And there is some exploration there of those ideas, but I think it is actually very similar. So there is so much in common. And I think it is so wonderful to see that Clerk is actually solving the hard problems here, which is, making things robust and complete. And that is actually so difficult. And NodeSpace is not there at the moment, at least.
Right, thanks.
I have a question, actually. I was wondering about the extra hotkey. So you send it separately with, if you're connected to a REPL, you're practically it's an intentional thing for you to view it. And I was just wondering, couldn't it have been made so that, I wonder if it's possible to have some custom NREPL middleware where if you evaluate a form, it automatically sends it to Clerk if it's tagged with the Clerk metadata. So you don't have to have that separate hotkey to send that custom REPL command.
You're muted.
Yeah. No, a middleware would certainly be possible. I'm wondering what question is what would it mean to evaluate a form? Maybe Daniel can also say how they do this in NodeSpace. Would you want to just see the result of this form then in Clerk, or?
At least I would imagine, unless you've tagged it. I guess, I'm not sure. But in general, you wouldn't want to see it. That would be the default. And you would only tag the forms you do want to see.
The middleware stuff, it's definitely, I think it's possible. I could also see Clerk being, or maybe you want to, or what do you see as the downsides of the hotkey approach?
I guess it's, I like the idea of it being more in sync. That way it never goes out of sync, if you know what I mean. You changed a data source and you don't forget that you've updated it separately.
Mm-hmm. It's still sharing the same. It's still sharing the same runtime, right?
Yeah.
But Clerk does have its view of, its cached view of a var can differ from what's in the runtime, right? But you can also globally opt out of Clerk's caching, for example. You can turn that off via JVM flag if that's not what you want. But yeah, no, I encourage to try the hotkey definitely. I think it's a bit easier to set up and kind of less invasive than nREPL middleware, or and yeah, I think it feels quite natural. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised how much better it felt. Compared to the file system watcher.
Yeah, well, another like in between would be to, instead of binding the reload of Clerk on a hotkey, you can bind it on save event of your Emacs buffer. So instead of just doing a file watch, just, when the buffer is saved, and then you can have your own preference on when to save something, if that has to be explicit or autosave, or that's up to you. Then you can.
I mean, that's how it works with the watcher, right? But then you don't have, So what my hotkey does, it saves the buffer and then it sends it to Clerk, right? But So I like this more than the save approach, because when you have namespaces that you still need to save, right? Because you want to, but you don't want to show them in Clerk, right? This lets you decomplex this, so to speak.
Yeah, it's probably the ergonomics of it, at least for your preference for it. It can only come out of trying it out and see what works for you.
Yeah, and there are some people, like I know some people for whom it made all the difference, kind of that. That they didn't like it before, with the file save stuff, but they said after the hotkey was a game changer, and it clicked then.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right. It's more than 1.5 hours, so I think it might be a good, and like more than half of the people left already, so it might be a good idea to wrap it up. So yeah, I guess that's the end of the meetup for today, and thank you so much, Martin, for joining us for the presentation, and in this time of hardship.
Sorry about the rough start.
It's okay. Seriously.
Won't try the tea before next time.